we'll get started in a second here. Excellent, excellent. All right, we see attendees starting to join the call, so we're just going to get started in just a moment. All right, well, more attendees will come in. We want to be as prompt as possible, so we'll get started right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the NoBondsCast with Beck Bode. My name is Ben Beck. I'm here with everybody you know, Jim Bode, and we're introducing today to some folks that may not have met her before, Karen O'Donohue. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, I think we all noticed that there's quite a few more attendees on this call than in past. And I'm just wondering, Jim, I wonder why that is.
I don't know. I don't think I've turned on my TV in a couple of days, but not sure if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe some things going on in the world economically and in the markets, and a little volatility here and there. But we're going to talk about some things related to that today in our NoBondsCast. Just know, for everybody listening and everybody listening to the replay afterwards, as all these types of things come about, know that this too shall pass. Whatever the cause is, whatever's been talked about, certainly the news media, their job is to sensationalize and get viewers and get more eyes on what they're talking about. And that's no different what we're facing today. And just know, again, that this too shall pass. And we are here to support you with any kind of questions that you have. And one of the reasons why we do the NoBondsCast and do it live is that, folks, if you're listening right now, please use the chat feature and write in any kind of question that you would like addressed, and we'll try within the 20-minute time period that we have here to address any questions or thoughts that you have. So with that, Jim, why don't we get started? Everybody hopefully knows you and I. They may not know Karen O'Donohue. If you're not in the Portsmouth, New Hampshire and vicinity area, Karen is a senior financial advisor with Beck Bode. She's a certified financial planner. She runs our Portsmouth, New Hampshire location, and she's a very valued member of the team here. And we wanted to bring her on for her to share some thoughts about some of the things that she's working on with clients, some current news, which is a common thing that we do here on the NoBondsCast. We want to make sure we address certain things that may be going on, good and bad, and offer you some insights. And at the end of the day, and always give you the unvarnished truth about how it applies or could apply to your portfolio. So I just want to say hello and welcome, Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. What do you say we jump right into our episode today with the first topic, which is some things that you've been working on in particular with clients that have to do with retirement plans and some of the more recent changes with respect to clients and their ability to contribute perhaps more money to the retirement account. So, for the benefit of everybody listening, can you give us a little insight in terms of what you've been talking about with clients?
Sure. So this year, there is what's being called a special catch-up provision, allowing folks nearing retirement age sort of a better opportunity to put away a little bit more money than the usual catch-up that we're familiar with. So just to be clear, this applies to your employer profit sharing plans, your 401ks, things like that. This doesn't apply to IRAs or Roths, for example. So this year you can defer, up to $23,500 of your salary into your employer's plan. If you're 50 years or older, of course, as has been the case, you can do what's called a catch-up contribution of another $7,500. Great. But this year, for the first time, if you are between the ages of 60 and 63, so born in the years 1962 through 1965, you can actually put away 11,250. That is, a special catch up for
Gotcha. So above what you can
above the
normally put together.
23.5. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's in replacement of the 7,500 normal catch up. So great opportunity in those later years of working to sock away a little bit of extra money into your retirement plan. And if you've got some catching up to do, this certainly allows for a greater opportunity to do that this year.
So one of the questions I get, Karen, a lot is, I'm 60 years old in this situation. Is it really going to make that big of a difference if I do this super or enhanced contribution? Should I really be thinking about doing this? How do you answer that?
I would say if you're able to, yes. In those last few years, that's your opportunity to save these big amounts. You've still got the paycheck coming in. And I'd say every dollar that you can, put away for your retirement, but will be your income when you do decide to stop working, that matters. And while you might say, oh, it's only a few years until I retire, but it could be decades within your tax deferred or Roth, retirement plan. You're still a long-term investor, even at the outset of retirement. So yeah, and we know the effects of compound interest and the magic that can work. So I'd say it's well worth it if you're able to.
That's a really interesting point. I mean, if the way the statistic work these days in terms of probability, the 60-year-old today, married 60-year-old couple, one of the spouses is now statistically expected to live into their 90s. So exactly what you said. I mean, folks, our clients, if you're listening, you could be looking at a 3+ decade long retirement, so to speak, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say take the opportunity while you've got it in these last couple of years leading up to, your eventual retirement date. It's a great opportunity. So, and that can be done, just through your normal payroll deductions, keep it automated, make sure it happens. That's the best way to go about it. Yeah. Yep.
Excellent. Yeah. So that's a good point too. For folks that may have that question of, okay, I may have set my retirement plan contribution percentage or dollar amount years ago. And so how do I go about changing that? And that's as easy as most 401k plans and have the ability to log in, right? And you can change your percentage and so on. But you're also saying, hey, it could also just be an easy email or call to the HR person that's responsible for that at their work. Yeah,
absolutely. They could help you figure out if you need to readjust that percentage and try to make sure that by the end of the year that you've done, everything that you can to get that maximum amount. Or of course, I'm happy to help too. If you want to give me a call, always here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, that's it seems to me with these, I don't think a lot of people know about this extra special catch-up contribution. That's one of the reasons why we all thought it might be a good subject to talk about today. So yeah, absolutely. So if you're in that age group and still working and have a company sponsored plan, give Karen a call, give us a call to talk more about it. And certainly it makes a lot of sense for most people to get more money into that tax deferred type of vehicle that you may not touch for years from now. So that benefit of compounding is tremendous. Maybe Jim, shift gears a moment here and talk about something else that's come up more recently, which is also a benefit for any advisor, in particular, any investor living in particular in New Hampshire. So Karen, there's been some changes, right, with respect to how particular income that investors receive is categorized in terms of tax changes. So would you mind giving us a little insight on what's happened in particular in New Hampshire?
Sure, absolutely. So while New Hampshire does not have an income tax per se, we traditionally have had a tax on interest and dividends. It's a 3% tax on any income received through your brokerage accounts or savings accounts, things like that. It has been repealed, so it is no longer in place, but that's effective this year, 2025. So if you're doing your tax returns for last year, that'll be your last one to file and pay. But effective this year, that's going away. So, you know, obviously, you know, has a great effect on, you know, after tax returns are now, all the return is all of yours to keep, as opposed to having to pay tax on those dividends and interest that you've received throughout the year. In things like brokerage accounts, if you've got, these are sort of outside your retirement accounts type savings. So, you know, obviously this is a New Hampshire specific change, but a welcome one for those investors with, you know, investment accounts. Yeah.
Yeah. And certainly current for this type of call, right? Because of course, you being in the Portsmouth, New Hampshire office, right? So, and having a lot of clients that live in New Hampshire. We also have at Beck Bode a Salem, New Hampshire office that's outside, of course, of our headquarters in Dedham, Massachusetts. But, you know, and Jim, you know, you can comment on this too. We've had quite a few clients over the years that actually live in New Hampshire, right? And you've dealt with personally. And what do you envision like these conversations, Jim? And what kind of conversations have you had with folks?
Yeah, I mean, when we start thinking about taxes in general, especially on interest and dividend, people might say, oh, well, it's 3% over certain dollar amounts. And this goes back to the similar conversation on contributing long-term to your investment account. Well, taxes over time in your account also have long-term effects. So anytime we can do better tax planning or better tax savings, the impact over time is well worth the extra planning that we can do for any of our clients. So when we're specifically looking at how do we live in retirement, how does someone live off their investment accounts, this new repeal of this 3% state tax allows us a little bit more flexibility on distributions and how money comes out of their investment accounts. So I think for anybody that we're working with, planning is first. Planning is most important. And we talk a lot about inflation in our meetings with clients, and we talk a lot about taxes with our clients. This gives us a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more control over the decisions that we make on distributions as they're coming out of their accounts, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because you know the you know how we opened up the call today, right? Those kind of conversations can often dominate the discussion about, hey, how is my money moving over long periods of time? But particularly with non-retirement accounts, what you were saying, Jim, is that you know that's something sort of beneath the surface, your ability to save a little bit more money that doesn't have to go to the government, right? That's now present in your account, compounding and moving forward. Every little bit helps, right?
Yeah, it adds up over time, and we're in this for the long game. We talk to clients all the time that you never stop investing. It doesn't matter what age you are, you need to be participating in the market. And you need to be reinvesting along the way as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, we have lifetime investors, right? You know, when we go through our planning process, we talk with everybody, right? About, and I know Karen, you do the same with respect to our process here. We're talking about certainly their most cherished goals, right? Their highest priorities. And for most folks, that's retirement income. But then it's also goes a little bit further. If they have a family, it's like, well, I want to make sure that, for example, my children are taken care of with respect to, you know, the balance of my portfolio over time, or it's to impact the next generation and so on and so forth. So for most everybody that we work with, right, their portfolio is not there to simply impact the here and now, but it's for years down the road, and where those decisions on how you invest and what you invest in. Jim, you mentioned a second ago with respect to inflation, right? That's arguably threat number one, but also little things that can add positive returns and compounding over time, like this change for New Hampshire investors with taxes and how some of their investments are treated. So great. So maybe since we're talking about inflation and we're talking about clients' most important, most cherished goals, Karen, maybe you can share in the last few minutes that we have here today about the somewhat unique process that we all go through at Beck Bode with our clients with respect to planning. There's everywhere in our financial industry, you hear the term financial planning, but maybe you can share a little bit about our process and how that's a little different and what some of the conversations you have with clients with respect to that.
Absolutely. So our process has been and will continue to be to work directly with our clients to understand what's most important to them. What are their goals? Okay, let's get those really well defined. Next, we put together a plan to try to achieve those goals. What does that look like? Okay. And then, of course, and only then do we figure out how do they need to be invested specific to their situation. So the way that we do that is through our goals planning statement, which lays out what it is we're trying to do, what are the means that our clients have to do that plan with, and kind of really well defines what are we jointly working on together. I love the fact that it's specific to each client. It's not just sort of a generic document that everyone gets the same version of, but it is an actual document. And I think we all know that when you're setting a goal, to have it written and measurable is really how you have the best chance of achieving it. So it's a document that we put in place when we first, lay out those goals in the plan, but it's not sort of a put it on the shelf and never look at it again either. We want to look at it each year, ideally, when we get together for our annual reviews and see if the plan is the same. If it is, wonderful, great. Like, let's keep going on working on that path. But if things change, and they do, life has a way of introducing new situations, and so then we incorporate whatever that new situation is into the goals planning statement. But it kind of keeps us, both accountable for what we're trying to do and in agreement about what we're trying to do and accomplish. So I think it's really unique. It kind of invites clients to have, I think, more of a buy-in to what the financial plan is, which I really appreciate. Yeah.
Those are great words that you used. Accountable and buy-in and phrases like on the same page. And you opened up the thought on, that I felt the stress that this is a joint agreement, right? This is an acknowledgement. Tell me a little bit more about that in your conversations. Is that, when you talk about accountability and you talk about being on the same page, how important is that?
Critical, I'd say. I think when we're in agreement, when we mutually understand what it is that we're trying to do, we're going to have the best outcome. So, yes, the clients are accountable for being able to define the goals, understanding the plan that is in place to achieve them, and what, what their role is. But it defines our role as well, in terms of supporting that plan, of managing the portfolio in support of those goals, regardless of what's going on in the moment. And this time that we're in right now is a great example. It lays out our responsibility as well to stick to their plan, to keep them invested throughout the highs and the lows, because it's not about all of that, what can often be noise. It's about the client's priorities, what's important to them, what are they looking to achieve. And so I like the fact that it lays out both sides responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. I like how it's an actionable, living, breathing document, right? It's not something that we just put on a shelf and check off the list that we've completed this. But like you just mentioned, in times where things get a little uncertain, it's nice to be able to pull it out and say, let's continue to talk about this.
Right.
And I think the goals planning statements helps us address it when there's a little bit of confusion or noise in the world, as well as when things seem to be going well. There's that actionable plan that we can always rely on.
Right.
Yeah. And then maybe, for the benefit of the folks listening too, it's you both mentioned it, referring to what we're going through right now in the economy. Inevitably or undoubtedly, folks, clients of ours are having conversations, or at least hearing from friends, family, contacts of theirs about what's going on with the new administration, for example, or the what do we think the outcome of the tariffs and all these things are going to be. And I think it's important that folks know that they have folks like you, Karen, and myself and Jim and the rest of the team to be able to pick up the phone and give folks a call, and give us a call, and someone to talk to, so to speak, with respect to what's going on. How does that impact the great plan that we put together? So all great points there. All great points. Anything else, Jim, Karen, before we wrap up today?
I'm good.
I think this has been great. I think we covered three great topics, looking back at the contribution increases, the win for New Hampshire, and a repeal of a 3% tax, and a quick review of the goals planning statement. I think we covered everything here today.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you both. In particular, thank you, Karen, for coming on and sharing some great information with us, with everybody watching, and certainly I'm sure there'll be a lot more folks too that will be watching the replay. So hopefully this is helpful for everybody. We are holding the NoBondsCast every 2 weeks, so in a couple Wednesdays from now we'll be on again, and look forward to seeing everybody then. So thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.